Now when you print out the plans, what I've given you basically is a floor plan that you can glue the blocks directly to. Now you'll notice that these have dotted lines. Basically they're where you're going to cut these apart. You don't have to cut them directly on the dotted lines, just so you kind of get them apart. And there's going to be 6 main ones that you're going to do. So we've got these 2, and what you don't have to, I would basically cut them a little bit closer, and you can cut off this guide that you've got here on the side. Now I'm going to glue these plans onto foam core board. What this is it's paper backing on each side and foam in the middle, and it's a little less than 1/4 inch thick. Now as far as gluing these down, this is the main base we definitely want to glue down. This one that forms the upper floor, and you can almost see how it lines up in there. Do not glue this to anything. What we're going to do is basically set the blocks on top of them and glue them together. But you don't want a thick base under this. This one is just going to be by itself, so set that to the side, don't glue it on. But all of the rest of these pieces you do want to glue down. So you might, depending on the size you have, you can glue all these pieces down. I'm not going to worry about the other pieces quite yet. What I'm going to do is show you how to glue this particular one down. My method here is to put it down on here and to just basically draw an outline around the outside in pencil or pen. Just go all the way around this thing, and if you miss and draw over it, it doesn't matter. This whole thing's going to be painted when we get done. So if you don't do a particularly wonderful job of tracing around it, that's okay. So what we've done is I've kind of outlined where that thing, where I'm going to put glue, so I don't need to put glue everywhere. Now the next thing I'm going to do is use my Aleen's Tacky glue, and I'm going to go ahead and just put a good layer of glue over this whole thing. You want it glued down pretty well, because what's going to happen is you're going to glue the blocks to the paper. And if the paper isn't glued well down, then the paper's going to lift up and your blocks are going to come off with it. So what I would do is just use a good amount of glue. And that should be probably pretty good right there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take my finger and I'm going to go and just kind of spread it around. And I'm going to go over the line a little bit. That's okay. It's almost better if you go over the line a little bit. And with the line, it kind of gives you an idea of where the edges of this thing are. And then just do your best to put it back on top. It doesn't have to be perfect, but lay it back on there. Try to get it nice and flat. And if it bubbles a little bit, it's not going to matter. We're going to end up gluing ground foam materials, for grass and that sort of thing over top of it when we get done. Now after these plans are glued down and dried, I'm going to go ahead and cut them out of the foam core. And one thing you're probably going to notice on this video is that as I'm doing this is the first time I built it, so some of my plans really aren't quite correct yet, and I'm making corrections as I go. One of those corrections you'll notice is right here. I don't have a circle, but I just corrected the plan, so I have a circle here that represents where floor tiles are going to go. Now I'm going to use a regular X-Acto knife. Be sure that you get a new sharp blade on the X-Acto knife when you do it. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm just going to cut these apart. So I'm just going to, if you'll notice what I've got down here is a cutting board, so that I don't end up cutting my table, and it kind of saves the blade a little bit. This is what I've got, and the tower's going to go on top of it. So I don't really necessarily want a lot of extra around it, but I do want to kind of have a base for it to set on. What I'm going to do is I'm going to angle the blade when I cut around here. So let's zoom in just a little bit here. And when I cut it, you can see as I'm cutting around, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of angle this. And it's going to be formed like a base around the tower. So you'll notice that the edge of this now has kind of got a bevel to it, kind of like what the ground is going to do. So what we basically have now are 5 pieces that we're actually going to start gluing the blocks to. I'm going to go ahead and glue together this section, this floor section that's here. This is one that we did not put onto foam core. And for that one we're going to need some of the 3-inch floor tiles. We're going to need some of the 3-inch wall tiles that are still a quarter inch thick. We'll need some of the 3-inch medium wall tiles. Or wall blocks that we glued together from the ruined ones. And then we're also going to need some of the 6-inch floor tiles going around the outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the middle, and I'm just going to go around, and it doesn't matter if you glue this to the paper or not. I'm not going to glue it to the paper. I'm just going to glue the tiles to each other. But what I want to do is be sure I've got a really good bead of glue around the outside of these. So I'm just going to, you know, put some glue on the side of this one, put it on here. Okay, now that I'm about done, a couple of things you might want to watch. When you're gluing the floor tiles, the back side and the front side look very similar. So be sure to watch carefully, otherwise you'll have a perfectly flat tile rather than a worn tile. Now, one thing you may notice about foam core that we've glued this to is it has a tendency to warp. As this dries, whatever surface you glued, it's going to want to curl up a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take some paint, and this is the same dirt colored paint that we're going to use to paint the ground with later. What we're going to do is we're going to paint the back side. And what that seems to do, at least from my experience, is when you paint the back side and that paint dries, it kind of pulls up and it will pull it back into its original shape. This is after the paint has dried, and it actually did straighten this piece out very well. Okay, we're going to start with the main tower first. Now, here are the pieces, kind of according to the letters that we have on here. The one that you see right here that says BT, on the plans I labeled it as buttress, which is actually this piece right here. And it kind of glues in this position here. But what we're going to do is we're not going to glue it quite yet. We're going to wait till we have some other blocks there just so that these don't get in the way. So we're going to set these aside just for the moment. The main things that we need to put on here are the ones labeled with the letter B, which stands for base. Those are the base of the pillar, which are these little blocks here. And this one right here is positioned where the flat part is back, and the buttress will go this way, so these will actually be back to back, like this, in that position there. Where you see this one here, we're going to have 2 of them back to back, like here. Now this one looks a little bit odd. You see how there's an arch, but the arch overhangs? That is on purpose, and you'll kind of see why. But this needs to be positioned so that the decorative part faces forward, and that the back is actually this P that you see right here that it's going behind. That's going to be a full pillar that's going to go behind it. So they're going to actually end up setting back to back like this when we get done. Such kind of like that. So that's what this one is going to be here. So we're going to have these pieces that are going to go all around here. And then right here, this one right here is the 6 small, which is the 6-inch diameter, which is the smallest block that we have, which is this little wedge-shaped one right here. I don't know if that's focusing as I'm bringing close up, but it will go in this position here. And then we'll have another one going right here, wedge-shaped, kind of going in like that. And then we'll have this piece going right here, and we'll have another base going right here, and then we'll have the other buttress piece going here. Now, okay, yeah, these go back to back like this. Now, we're not going to glue these back ones on until we actually have more above. And finally, the 3M means the 3-inch medium piece, which are these blocks that we glued together right here. So I'm going to go ahead and glue everything into place. These little ones, these 6S's, they're actually going to have a top cap on top of them going like this direction. to where they're going to be flat on this back side here, and the decorative part pokes that way. This one over here is going to have a cap on it like this, poking out going this way. Now this next row is a little bit difficult to tell you the position on. Kind of follow the guidelines of these strips that you see down below. These are mainly going to be the 6A ones, the large arches, and they're going to go here. This particular one is going to be flush right here, and it's going to hang over half of this one, and this one's going to go right here, and the back here will be exactly flush right here. And you want to kind of center them front to back between the ends, so you get a little bit of decoration jetting out from both sides underneath. Now the tricky part is the one that goes on the back side back here. Now in other words, this one back here, the back side of the arch is flush with the back side of this base piece right here. And keep in mind that you're going to fit them like this, and after they dry, we're going to take one of these pillars and we're going to put it along the back, so it can actually line up flush with the bottom. So kind of keep that in mind, the way that's going to look here. Let's see if I can lift it up without it falling to pieces, how that's going to look. So you can kind of see what that is going to do right there when that's all kind of fit together. Okay, so that's kind of the difficult part to visualize, is how these arches fit on here. The other thing that's a little bit difficult to visualize is one of these arches is going to halfway stop here. And right here we're going to have to fill this one with half an arch. Okay, well that one's going the wrong direction. Let's get the other half. Okay, this arch right here is going to go right here, and it's going to butt directly against the side and glue into the side of that arch right there. Now this time we're going to put these pieces on here, these 3-inch ones. We're going to put them in another layer going around here. We're going to take the 6 extra large piece right here, and on one side we've got the 6-inch large one here, and then we have a 6-inch wall floor tile going right here. That's going to repeat on the same on the other side exactly the same way. And across here we're going to have the 6XL, the 6 extra large ones, going right here into place, and those will go ahead and be glued into place. Okay, now be sure that everything kind of sits together really neat. Check the back side to make sure that the back side is flat. And then after you glue this on, what we're going to do is we're going to take this floor section that we glued. Remember we glued it separately? We need to take it and we need to just drop it in here and make sure that it fits properly and that everything fits up against it. This should go right here so that the floor tile split line up with this line going all the way across like here. And this is going to be in this little hole right here. We're going to have a 6M, which is a 6 medium block. It's going to shove in the corner right here. Try to get it to line up with this wall as closely as you can. It looks to me like this tile is kind of sticking out a little bit. Let me shove that back in. It's easy to do that while the glue is still wet. And then we're going to have another 6M piece over on this side. And there was that block. It's going to shove right over here. Now keep in mind, don't glue these blocks to the floor. This piece right here should be removable. Now it's going to be a little tight. And honestly, when we paint it, it's going to be even a little tighter because paint is going to take a little bit of space. So if this is a little bit tight in here, my suggestion is to shove this out a little bit. Kind of shove that and these blocks here over just a little bit to give yourself just a little bit more room. So this fits, this floor should fit just a little bit loosely in here. Okay, we're ready for the next row. The next row, along the back here on top of these pillars, we're going to have this little decorative angle piece right here. That one, what you're going to do is you're going to turn it around so the back is flat against, and you're going to glue 4 of those in position there. And then basically what we're going to do are these 6-inch wall tiles. They're 1/4 inch thick, and over here we're going to put 3 of them. 1, 2, 3 over here, and along the back we're going to completely cap off the top of this. Now, just so you know, some things aren't going to line up perfectly. In other words, this fit between here and here is not a perfect fit. This block is not meant to intersect at this angle. So what you do is you kind of fudge it a little bit. You kind of move things around, and you'll notice that you probably have a little more gaps between a couple of these maybe to get this to shove forward enough to kind of close the gap here, which was really never meant to be. So, okay, at this point we are going to go ahead and build the rest of this central tower here by itself. And what we're going to do is we're going to lift this floor out. We're going to take what we have at the moment, set it to the side, and we're going to go ahead and continue building from this point. Now, starting from here, for the next level up to where we're going to paint, what we're going to do is we're going to use a couple of the 3M, the 3-inch medium pieces. We're going to center them exactly on every single one of these, going all the way around. And then on top of that, we're going to put the 3-inch arches on top of that and glue them into place exactly where they need to be. Now, to try to get these to line up nice, do the best you can. If you see something, it's possible that the blocks underneath need to move out. It's possible the top needs to move in. What you want to do is try to get one wall straight, turn it, and see where the next wall is at. And then try to get it fairly straight, turn it, see where the next wall is at. And things are going to shift on you. You're probably going to have to go around maybe 4 or 5 times before you kind of even things out to where it's not, you know, a horrible mess. Now, this next section is just a little harder to explain. What we're going to do is we are really going to run out of these small tiles to form a windowsill. And I don't want these scraped areas showing. So in order to hide that fact, what we're going to do is we're going to use 2 of these 3S pieces. They're the smallest angle pieces on the 3-inch tower. And we are going to put those as the windowsill for the next arch. So we're going to put a couple of them there, and we're going to put a couple of them here. And these are going to be centered directly over the open arch that's on top of. Now, if we miss a little bit, it's not going to matter because this is going to lift off. So if we were off, we can always kind of, you know, twist it back and forth before we actually glue it into place after it's painted. So we're not going to worry too much if we don't get it exactly on the mark. But we're going to have these marks here, and then we're going to fill in between with the 3Ms, the 3-inch medium pieces, and they're going to go, and this will form the next layer on top of that. Then we're going to go ahead and do one more layer of these 3M pieces. We've got one more layer here. Then we are going to go ahead and finish it off with a 3-inch arch piece. That's going to go on there next. Oops. Okay, that'll go on there next. Okay, at this point I've allowed this to dry long enough, and this, as you can see, comes apart here, where we can have a fairly easy job of painting the inside and painting the inside here. What we need to do at this point is we're going to put a floor into here using a scrap of the foam core board, or you could use cardboard or anything else you want. What I suggest you do is you take this, take the tower top off, and flip it upside down and just set it on a piece of the foam core. Then what you're going to do is take a pencil and just draw around the inside like this. Okay, so just kind of draw a pencil around the outside. And then we're going to have that'll kind of show us the shape of this. And I'm going to put this on one of the cutting boards so I can cut this out with a hobby knife. On top of that, we're going to go ahead and glue a ring of these 4-inch small wall tiles all the way around and completely fill the circle. And one thing I missed is to go ahead, we're going to glue together 2 of these buttress bottoms with a torch top. These are going to go along the side of the tower, but because they cross over part of areas that are going to be painted separately, we really can't glue them on yet. We'll have to wait till the end to glue these two pieces on after the tower is glued together. So what I want you to do is glue these on top here, kind of line them up. And I should have put this in more at the beginning of the video on the pre-glue stuff, but I just forgot about it. Now let me go ahead and lay out the final blocks for the wings here. What's going to happen is, if you remember these two guys that we made, these two little buttress pieces, what these are going to do is these are going to set on top of this corner block that you've got right here that's not actually one of the wall tiles. It's going to sit here against the central tower, and it's going to sit here against the central tower on this side. Now these will not be glued into place, because if we glued them, we'd have trouble getting everything in and out. So what we're going to do is we're going to set them there and put them there to where they meet against the side, just about as good as you can do. They're not going to be a perfect fit because the end of this is flat and this tower is round, so it's not going to set perfectly flat against it, but we'll just, you know, do our best. After we set it there, the pieces that are going to go next are this 6S piece. It's going to be wedged and it's going to set right against the edge right here. Then we're going to have the 6M piece, and it will kind of straddle this crack right here on the floor tile. And then the next piece we have on this side is going to be the C piece. We're going to leave it out like this. On top of that, we're going to do the smaller 6-inch arches. One's going to go across just like this. Another one's going to go across just like this, and we'll move it and space it out a bit. And then on top of that, we're going to have a B piece on this side to kind of go and finish off the top. And we'll do the same on the other side. We're going to have one of these 6S pieces. We're going to have one of the 6M. Let's get that arranged. And then we're going to have this one right here, which is a I. It's going to go here. We're going to have these two little arch pieces on this side going to go on here. And then we're finally going to top this off. This piece in here is a G. Now, one thing you're going to notice is that on this side right here and on this side, the bottom of this buttress is going to get in the way. You see how this bottom flares out? It's going to knock into this piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper, set it on the edge of the table, and it's these bottom edges that we need to take off. So what I'm going to do is just lay it over so the top overhangs, and I will just go back and forth, and I am going to sand that thing off. Okay, now that we've sanded the back down, if you set these back into place and set them up against the tower, we can now make the window area just set flat against that block right there. The last thing is to put our circular stairway. These are the 4 stair pieces that we glued together that are going to be right here. And then we're going to put a couple of extra floor tiles down here on the bottom. And I want to go ahead and glue those floor tiles into place. But to be sure they're in the right place, what I want to do is I want to adjust this tower. I want to make sure that this line lines straight up across the tower. These floor tile lines right here go straight across. So rotate them until they go straight across, because as that turns, the stairway is also going to turn, which means these tiles are also going to turn. When that is in place, I'm going to just set this here. I'm not going to glue it, but I will go ahead and glue these 2 floor tiles. So position it to where the floor tiles look like it's just about right. This stair is just going to basically butt against here. And we're going to paint it separately, and then we're going to glue it in place. The pieces go here, assemble in this particular way. After these pieces are painted separately, the first thing that's going to go down is the base piece that's going to go right here. The next thing that's going to go down is the next platform piece with the stairs on it. It's going to spin around this way, and it's going to set right like this, and we'll adjust it before we actually glue it. The stair piece is going to set in here, and once you glue it, it will stay. It's probably going to fall right now. This little pillar right here that you see, it's going to be going underneath of right here, so you'll glue it as best you can under there. After that, we will glue the top piece on, and this will just go basically so all the arches align. On the back side of this, that's where these 2 long buttress pieces go. The one's going to go along this strip right here, and one's going to go along this strip right here. The next piece that's going to glue into place after it's painted are these two buttresses. One's going to glue right here, and one's going to glue right here, and you'll probably have to move things a little bit to get them adjusted. The final pieces are going to be these four pillars. They're going to have to go in this location here, and it's up to you if you want to make them round like I'm doing, or if you want to set them square for a square roof. It's really up to you how you want to do that. But they're going to go there. This torch is going to go in the middle, and then the top piece is going to go on top, and that will finish the ruin. Now there are a few finishing touches we can still glue on, even though we cannot glue these particular pieces on. These right here are all the blocks that I have left over from the 12 castings we made from each mold. Now you'll notice that we're not going to be able to use the stair pieces or extra floor tiles or any of that, but we do have a few extra things like these little faces that are on here. These little faces, we have several of those. And we also have these small stones. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue a few things around here. We even have some small flames, and you might want to put those on as decoration. In other words, you could take a couple extra flames like this if you want, and you could have the top of it here so we have flames on the top if you wanted those. We just have extra decorative pieces, and it's up to you where you want to put them. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take faces and I'm going to put them on the ends here, and then I'm going to take small rocks, and any time I've got a bare area like that's on top of here that looks a little strange, I am going to take a couple of rocks and I'm going to glue them into place here. I'll glue a rock over here, and a few other spare things, a few other spare rocks just for rubble.